Welcome back to another episode of Sound Pals Go to the Movies. This is another Throwback Thursday review, and I'm here with my friend Touly. Say hi, Touly.
Hey guys, how's it going?
For this review, we're going to review the movie Let Me In, which is the American adaptation of the original movie Let the Right One In. Fair warning, there's going to be spoilers up ahead, so you've been warned. This story is about a bullied 12-year-old boy that befriends a young female that moves next door to him to discover later that she is a vampire living with her guardian. So, Touly, what did you think of this movie?
So, I did watch the original film first, which I believe was based off a book. So I didn't read the book, but I saw the original film in which Let Me In was based off of. I'm going to try to just evaluate this movie as a standalone and not compare it too much to the first or the original film that it was adapted from. I thought it was okay. A lot of the stuff that happened in this film did happen in the original film as well, so there's not much I could speak to it that would give me like a strong positive or negative reaction, other than a few points. That is, one, the lighting that was used in this film, in the American adaptation film here, Let Me In. They use like a tungsten lighting scheme, that yellowish to orangish, type of lighting. It gave me like a more warm feeling because of the lighting that was used. Compared to Let the Right One In, they used more of like a natural lighting scheme where it was like natural white color. To me, it made that film feel more cold and had like a more of an undertone to it. Or a natural undertone to it. Yeah, Let Me In with the lighting scheme, that was one of the big differences to me that I took away from the film, other than the special effects that they were using in this film too. But particularly when it revolved around Abby, the vampire who moved next door to Owen. I think it was just a way really to kind of heighten the theme of horror. Like, hey, remember, even though, this kid who seems to be pretty nice to Owen, she's kind of vicious. She has this other side of her that, that makes her, for lack of term, a killer wherever she goes, because she needs to consume blood to stay alive. So she needs to go out and hunt when her guardian is unable to do so for her. So I think that was just, in Let Me In, their way of trying to emphasize that point by showing all those special effects whenever she attacks her victim and stuff. But to me, it kind of took away from the meaning of the film. There was like a beauty to it too, at least from what I got from the original film, Let the Right One In. It had this other theme to it where you see this vampire who is quote unquote stuck at this age because of the way she looks. I think she said that she's like 12 years old to Owen. It seems like she keeps getting involved in relationships with like these kids around her age. I'm not sure if it is being done intentionally or not. Maybe, Sal, you could speak on it too later. But it seems like it's kind of like her mission, wherever she goes, if she could, to befriend somebody around her age, and maybe this person, like the guardian who she ended up moving next door with, just to have that person fall in love with her in some retrospect, and have him do, her bidding for her. So that's kind of what we saw in this film. The guardian who turned out to be the person with Abby to begin with. He was actually a kid around the time that, he met her. And they kind of fell in love the same way we saw how Owen fell in love with Abby in this film too. So it kind of begs the question, will this lead to the same route for Owen too? Or will this be different? We don't know, because that's how the movie ended, with Owen going away with Abby. Because of this, it also brings, it also sheds a light of this film being more adult oriented. It wasn't just, about a vampire going out on a killing spree for the need of blood and stuff. There was also, you mentioned, bully. There's also that aspect as well. Again, the theme of to what length would you go to kind of protect the one you love as well. There's multiple layers to what this movie is about, and I think that's why I kind of appreciated this film. It wasn't your typical high school drama vampire movie, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I agree with everything you said so far. I would say that this movie revolves around Owen and what he's dealing with, like his broken household, still dealing with the bully, and then growing he's 12 years old. He's maturing. He's at that point where he's seeing girls, and he's like, maybe she is a girl that I might be interested in. And Abby, on her side, she's somebody that needs somebody to depend on. And she sees that her guardian is getting up to that age where he's, like he said, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing my touch, or maybe I just want to get caught. Right before he died, he was actually being really sloppy when he was out hunting for her. And I think Abby, Chloe, the actress, she did a good job in portraying this innocent, but at the same time dangerous character that she was. She, at the same time, she's a girl who's innocent with Owen, but at the same time she has her dark side that she doesn't really want him to see. Especially when she came in through the window asking him, can I come in? You have to say it first. She came in and said, just don't turn around. The thing is that I think she was thinking, Owens has me in this image of an innocent person. I don't want to taint it, or not yet, or I don't want to show him my true person, because she was afraid that Owen might run away or not talk to her. So in a sense, Abby, for her being a vampire, she's still defenseless. She still yearns for that relationship with somebody that cares for her. And especially like she had her guardian, and we saw the picture, like you said, that she met him when he was around 12 years old too. The other thing is that she never says how old she is, but she just keeps saying around 12 maybe. And that's the whole idea of like, how long has she been living? Maybe she's been living forever, to the point that she even forgot what age she became a vampire and when she actually turned into a vampire, or how she did. Which actually, this gives me a vibe of Interview with a Vampire, where we see that they turned the little girl into a vampire, and she kind of gets mad and she's like saying like, why did you have to change me? Like I'm still a doll, like you treat me like a doll. So yeah, this movie, to me, it just, I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it. This was a better love story than Twilight. It actually had, like you said, layers. And that's what I loved about this movie. But at the same time, it was just a movie that just gave me a glimpse into this storyline. It was like a day that I just got to live there, and then I'm out, kind of thing. I would really like it to go further. I know it's not going to happen, but if there was another part, because, there was that little ending when they're on the train. But this movie, to me personally, it just revolved around Abby, Owen, and the police officer. The guardian was just there, but then he's out after a split second. The mom, Owen's mom, is there, but she's detached. We just see her there. We don't interact with her. Everybody else in school, just the bully, he kind of just was next to Owen, but he was the catalyst to make Owen grow up or gain courage to protect Abby. So in a sense, I think it was his way of training, or getting trained to be Abby's protector or next guardian. So I think that's basically everything I have to say about this movie. Touly, do you want to add anything else?
I think one thing I would like to mention, I forgot to mention earlier too, one of the other key differences, at least to me, that happened in this film compared to the original is when Owen was going to make a pact with her. It was the scene where he's cut his hand, and, when Abby saw the blood, she went for the blood that dripped onto the floor. She probably realized already that she didn't want to hurt Owen, but the fact that there was now blood in the scene, she probably might have not been able to control herself. So that was when she ran outside and she saw one of the neighbors. She attacked her. And of course, this is how we, as the audience, come to realize how somebody else can become a vampire, because a little bit afterwards, we see the victim who got attacked by Abby in the hospital room. And as the nurse is coming into the room, you see the neighbor who got bit by Abby, biting into one of her arms, which was a little disturbing in my honest opinion, her biting into herself. And then when the nurse opened the curtain, of course, shedding light into the room, the victim caught on fire. I felt bad for the nurse because she also got caught on fire in the process as well, because the room just got lit up. I wanted to bring up this key difference because in the original film, Let the Right One In, the nurse didn't get caught on fire. Right? It was just the victim. So I felt a little bad or not just a little bad, I felt really bad for the nurse just becoming an innocent victim of this tragedy that happened. But yes, like I said, there's a lot of layers to this where you can make an argument, for Abby, who knows when she has become a vampire, how she became a vampire. She's just struggling to stay alive, and you want to say that she might be taking advantage of these people who she's coming across to help her do her bidding. But at the same time, you can also make the argument that these people are doing this on their own free will. Like, they could leave at any point, but the relationship they have developed with Abby, maybe it's encouraging them. Maybe they have their own issues to deal with in life, and maybe being with Abby helped them grow as a person. You don't know. You can always make these arguments as to not necessarily what they're doing is right, because they are killing innocent victim or people for the source of blood. That you could point out that not being a good thing. You even saw this in the detective character who ended up dying trying just to solve the mystery of these people in his town dying or getting killed. So he became a victim of this too. Depending on like how you look at this could be like a tragedy based on how, if you were to look at it from Abby's perspective, because she can't control herself because she's a vampire, and we don't know her true backstory as to how she became a vampire. Could have been like a tragedy in of itself. If you were looking from Owen's perspective and him getting bullied and him meeting Abby, and like you said, meeting Abby made him stronger as a person. And like I said, if you were looking from the detective's perspective, how would you feel about people just getting killed in your town like that, and you just trying to do your job, and then you becoming a victim in all of this as well? So that's, again, probably the one thing that I really appreciate this film. Like, there's just a lot of layers, and depending on how you look at it, like whose perspective you were looking at it from, you could make a justification as to why the characters acted the way they did.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I want to point out is that there is no villain in this movie. Abby is just going about trying to survive. She needs to feed. Yes, there's people are dying because she needs to feed, but at the same time, she's not doing it for just the fun of it. Owen, he's getting bullied, so he's at the same time he's a victim. The policeman, he's actually trying to help Abby because he knows like this guy who died has a daughter, and he's like, maybe she's in danger. She's just out there and thinking like she needs help. So in himself, he's trying to be a hero. Everything comes into this movie like there's nobody who's doing it just for the pleasure of it. It all, like you said, there's a lot of layers to it. Now, things I'm going to criticize about this movie. One, that scene when she runs away from Owen because, she's turning into the vampire. She climbs the tree. Those graphics, those special effects. Yeah, I could have done without those. I would have wanted it to be more like, her doing it with cables. They could have done it. I've seen it being done in other movies and it works. This movie, what it did, it just put me out of that scene. I was like, it annoyed me. Next thing, the scene I really liked is when she goes inside Owen's house without him saying the 3 words. She stands in the middle of the room and starts bleeding. That I really enjoyed. The fact that she was standing there trying to prove to him, look, I want to be with you, even if it means that I would die. I would do this for you, kind of thing. So that actually showed that Abby cares for Owen, and at the same time, she is there to protect him. Especially the pool scene. And then one thing about the pool scene is, what's up with, it being dark around 4 p.m.? This is after school and it's completely dark. Yeah, there's something wrong with that scene, at least to me. Never seen it being dark at 4 p.m. in Los Alamos. Never been there, but I know it's not dark. Okay, so with that, we're going to give it our final grade. Touly, what grade did you give this movie?
I would give Let Me In a grade of, or a score of, somewhere between like a 7 to a 7.5 out of 10. Definitely a film that I could like find myself rewatching, again and again. Definitely a film that I could recommend to friends and stuff to watch. Again, for reasons I've already mentioned. I like the undertone meaning of the film, or different themes that this film capture. Is not just your standard vampire film, and this vampire is going out for blood, and that's that. There's motives behind these characters. They give you enough to kind of debate with yourself, with others, as to who's right, or who's in the right, or who's in the wrong. I think you brought up a good point where maybe nobody's at wrong here, right? So there's even that scenario. So it makes you go through these like in a sense like a roller coaster of emotions, because you feel bad for the people who are dying in this film, because they just were at the wrong place at the wrong time in a way. It begs you to kind of decide for yourself at the end, what will happen to Owen and Abby going forward now that you have seen how her guardian and how that story unfolded in this movie itself. So it kind of leaves it kind of open-ended, but at the same time you hope that things end up with a happily ever after. But if it doesn't, if Owen comes to the same fate as Abby's guardian in this film, then you wouldn't feel as bad either, because you knew that this was Owen's choice and he would have died to protect her, like how she kind of did here in a sense too, where she came to her rescue in the pool scene. Although a bit extreme, but the meaning got across. So yeah, I mean, I like this film though. That's what I would say.
Okay, so next question is, so for me, who watched the American adaptation of this movie, would you recommend me watching the original movie?
I would, because like I alluded to earlier, I feel like a lot of the stuff that happened in the American adaptation didn't happen in the original, aka like the special effects, the different lighting scheme that was used. It brought about a different mood. Like I said, to me it gave it a more warm feeling at times because of the lighting effect. But with the special effects that they used on Abby when she went to go hunt or whatever, it was a little more on the overboard side. So maybe I theorized that they did this to emphasize that this was a horror film, to remind the audience that this is a horror film. And so let's push this a little to the extreme so that the audience is reminded of this. Whereas in the original, it made it seem like Abby was just a natural character in this film who wasn't a vampire. And even when she went to go out and hunt and stuff, they didn't use like special effects. It was just, I think in the scene where she met, and I don't think she was called Abby in the original too. She was called somebody by a different name, but there was still the same scene where she was by a tunnel and a person came by and saw her there, and that person was just concerned for her because she needed help. But in the original, like the way she hung on to the guy and bit into him, it was, I think, done in one shot. There wasn't like a close-up scene to it. It was just like a far shot, and you see her like biting into him, but you never saw the viciousness of how she was, getting the blood or killing the guy for blood. Whereas in the American adaptation, you really saw how he would, like, she was like banging him into the wall and stuff while, she was like latching onto him. So it was more like an aggressive scene versus in the original. There was, like I said, a sense of charm, and the lighting scheme helps with it too, because they use like, it seems to be natural white light, and there was no special effect used in it. So that's just one of the examples that I would provide to somebody who would be interested in watching the original. There's definitely a different sense of mood to it, and a sense of beauty that occurs when Abby goes and hunt for blood.
Well, so I'm actually gonna watch the original, because I mean, I'm a fan of how people play with the lighting in movies, and this is going to be a good comparison between these two movies, see how each movie plays with the lighting. So now for my grade, I'm going to start off with saying that this movie, to me, this is what vampires are. People that burn when the sun hits them, not glitter in the sun. But this movie, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. This movie is one of the movies that I would tell people, look, watch this movie. It is a horror, but it's not one of the horror movies that's going to scare you or keep you up at night. This is more of a layered movie, like you said. It has a love story. It has this survival kind of instinct to these characters. Each character is surviving. Owen, Abby, even the policeman who died at the end. He was just trying to survive and trying to help people. Each person has something to protect the other person for. Abby is protecting Owen from the bullies. Owen's protecting Abby from, everything else, and especially the light. So with that said, I think we're going to end our review here for Let Me In. Please join us next time when we review Rosemary's Baby. And social media is down in the description. And hit us up if you have any questions. And remember, keep watching movies.